You're listening to HealthcareNOW Radio. Stand by for This Just In, the latest in healthcare innovation and technology trends with your HIT advisor, Justin Barnes.
Thank you, everybody, and tuning back into us. And I certainly want to thank everybody from Business Radio X who's producing this live HIMSS19 segment of This Just In Radio show. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. Deven, no, you're here. We actually have plenty of time.
All right.
So actually, I don't think my next guest is a break. So that's good. They give me one break in 5 hours of broadcasting. I get one chance to run to the restroom and back.
Oh, my God.
It's very tough. The older you get, the harder the people work you. It's brutal. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think this might be my 10th HIMSS conference.
It's my 18th.
Your 18th.
It's crazy.
Wow. All right, you win a prize.
No. This is people 25 years deep in here. But anyhow, I want to know about Ciitizen because we got a couple extra seconds. We'll get into the thought leader questions, but I've known you for a long time. You're wonderful in the privacy and security world.
Thank you.
A true thought leader.
Thank you.
But I want to hear about Ciitizen really quick.
Yeah, so Ciitizen is a platform that individuals can use in order to gather and manage and then share their health information. So it's really been exciting to hear what's been said by some of the folks in government about emphasizing the right of individuals to access their information, because we want to help them do that. And we want to also make sure that they get data that's not just a digital shoebox, but data that is normalized and standardized and summarized in ways that they can then send on in order to help their own care and maybe help people like them. We're actually focusing on very sick patients, so the kind of data that they need, x-rays, pathology reports, in addition to meds and labs, is the type of data that today is really hard to just get out of a portal, or it won't even be available through APIs until many years from now when we increase the amount of data that's available through those standards-based APIs. So we go the old-fashioned way.
Yep.
We knock on health information management department doors and we say, hey, HIPAA right of access, patient gets this, we take it in, we pull all of the relevant data out of it, and we give back to our users something that is then their story about their illness. And we're starting with cancer. I don't know if I mentioned that. And they can go seek nth opinions. They can see if they're eligible for clinical trials. They can donate to their favorite type of research.
Yep.
Share information with a caregiver. It's just really putting into their hands the power to both direct their own care and to help other people.
I love it. Wow.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that. I knew you were focused on cancer, but I didn't understand how deep.
Yeah.
So how do you get to that population? How do you find those patients, those individuals? Do you start off with health systems or? Yeah,
we're actually starting, we have multiple pathways through which we find our users, and we're still pretty early going. We don't have that many users by design because what we're building is actually a hard thing to do from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
Who knew? Healthcare is hard, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's also very complex.
It's also that too.
Yes.
We are going to get users both through relationships with healthcare systems, where the oncologists say, hey, if I had this data on all of my patients, that would really truly be worthwhile. And then also through patient advocacy organizations. So there's lots of them out there who try to help people.
Did you used to help lead one of those? Weren't you in the leadership team?
I did. Yeah. Not one focused on cancer, but yes, the National Partnership for Women and Families has a lot of individuals who follow them, who they can reach out to, and so working through advocacy groups who are often a very trusted source of information for patients is yet another way to say, hey, here's a service that you might want to use. They don't necessarily have to endorse us. It's really my job as the privacy official in the company to make sure that we have a really good product to sell in terms of people trusting us with their data. We won't sell it or share it unless the consumer is consented.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
So now diving into some of the reasons you're here at HIMSS and so forth, what are the trends that you're seeing out there, either healthcare trends or health IT trends that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a bit of a biased answer, but it won't be surprising. I think the whole trend toward empowering consumers or patients with their data is
love that trend.
Spot on. I mean, you're a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like getting information on your kids.
Yeah.
I
only work with doctors who are highly interoperable, to be honest.
Good for you. Yeah, I'm getting there too. I had a doctor for many years that I really liked who was not, and I finally was like, this is as I get older and my health concerns get more serious.
Yeah.
I need to know that my information can go to where it needs to go quickly, and that I can get it quickly and organize it. Same thing with, I have adult parents who. Increasingly they're in decent health, but it's not great health. And every year there's something new, right?
Yes.
So I think it's really important for people to be on top of their health. And you can't do that without data. So that's really the trend that I am most excited about. I'm super excited about the rapid adoption of FHIR-based APIs, right? Like, for a long time we really struggled with how do we get this data moving, and to really see both the regulators but also the community of industry folks as well as people in the consumer-facing community to say, you know what, we can all get behind this, and it doesn't solve everything, but it solves enough. And we can iterate on it over time and improve it, but this is the direction we ought to be going in.
You sound like a niche. You just sat up here, and for 50, you sound just like you. It's so great. I love him. Love you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
and I completely agree.
We're preaching the Bible of fire, right? I almost tweeted Anish Chopra is on fire, FHIR, and I was like,
that's good.
That is just too.
No, that would have been good.
Too weird.
You mean from his talk this morning? From his I heard he did a good job.
Was seriously that opening session was just to me so energizing. Not the gospel. The singers were great, but where I got really energized was having both the regulators and others on stage saying, you know what, this is the time. And I think it fits with the conference theme, right? Champions of health. You can't be a champion of health and hoard data.
That's right.
You cannot be a champion of health if you let your concerns about where's this data going, and at some point you just have to say those become excuses.
Correct.
And you just gotta push.
Yep.
Push.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
So what are 2 or 3 best practices that you can offer my audience on how to navigate access to data, access to information, and what you're just speaking about?
Yeah, well, from whose perspective?
The consumer perspective.
From a consumer
perspective. You have probably more knowledge of anybody else on some of these topics.
Yeah. So one best practice would be don't hesitate to stand up for yourself, because if someone is telling you it's data that you cannot have, the chances are pretty good that they are wrong.
Right.
And sometimes they don't intend to be wrong. I think sometimes just the information about what people have a right to is still sort of trickling out, even though this has been around for 20 years.
Exactly.
This is nothing new, but it didn't get a lot of emphasis, so I'll give people a little bit of a pass.
1996, right? You started this?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the regs didn't come out till 1999.
Okay.
So...
That's right. You're right.
But still, it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's 20 years
Correct.
now.
Yes.
Like, it's time.
Very true.
But you're probably not being told what's accurate, so... go to OCR's website, go to consumer groups like
Office
the National Partnership
OCR.
Office for Civil Rights. Yes, thank you. We have stuff on our webpage, Ciitizen, Ciitizen.com, as resources for people. Like, if you're being told you can't get your x-rays, that's wrong. If you're being told you can't get your records, that's wrong. If you're being told you have to come in person to get your records, that is also wrong.
Love it.
Like, all the ways that they're making it hard for you, wrong.
Yep.
So that is like and then from that point, once you have the data, like, it really is going to be incumbent on you to put it in a safe place.
Yep.
Which means that if you want to use a consumer-facing app or a service like ours, you're actually going to have to read the privacy policy.
Yes.
Because those entities are all outside of HIPAA, including us, and that means that the protections for your data are all sort of put in this set of policies that you really have to read, because once you click on that thing that says, yes, I want to do this, you are in. You've basically consented to everything that they've said in these sometimes hard to read
disclosures.
The disclosures, terms of service, and privacy policies. But you kind of have to do that. And I do think that there's going to be more resources available to consumers to help them navigate that space now that we're opening up the doors to the data going in that direction. So don't take no for an answer. Do your homework. And put your data in terms of putting your data in a safe place.
Fantastic. What do you think about the new rule coming out? It came out yesterday.
Yeah, I might be the only person at this conference who hasn't even skimmed it yet.
But you like the concept of it.
Yeah, the concept of it, information blocking was really revelatory provision in the 21st Century Cures Act, and it scared the crap out of a lot of entities who could be subject to information blocking penalties.
Yep.
And it was, a joyous occasion for folks who sort of felt like the data that they needed to move around was just sort of jammed up in lots of ways that that didn't really make a lot of sense. They weren't technical obstacles; they were business obstacles. They were regulatory misinformation types of obstacles. So I think we're going to get clearance on all of that and be able to get through some of the sludge.
Yep.
And then if there are remaining technical issues to be resolved, we'll have a better idea of where they are, because they won't be sort of shrouded behind essentially business concerns.
I completely agree.
So I'm pretty excited to dig into it, actually.
Yep.
That's the nerdy side of me. Like, oh, this is great, but I want to go home and read regs.
Right. I know. I was actually fortunate. So I have Elise Sweeney Anthony on my show at 3:50 today, talking about the new rule. And but Peter, who in communications at ONC, sent me the infographic, which I was thankful for, because I didn't have time to read the reg. Actually, I've been preparing for this show, but I did read the infographic, and I do like it. The only thing I'm concerned about is they mentioned if it's too much of a burden to share the information, and there's going to be you can get basically dispensation for not sharing based on it being too much of a burden. I just don't want that being levied.
No, I think they need to provide a lot more detail on what is meant by a burden. Because, everything that takes work is a burden,
yes,
arguably,
correct.
right?
And that's what I'm worried about.
I have to do something different from what I did before. That's a
burden, right?
That's a burden,
yeah.
right? Look, the reality is that when you're changing workflows within a healthcare institution, it kind of feels like moving the Titanic, right? But that can't be the litmus test,
correct.
Right?
That's right.
You have to change. If there are other things that make it too much of a burden, you got to specify what that is. And frankly, ONC needs to provide more detail, but we need to help them, actually.
Correct.
As part of this comment period.
Very true.
What does it mean to be too much of a burden, and what should be off the list as being too much of a burden?
Excellent point. Excellent point. So my last question, we spent a lot of time looking at here and now at HIMSS, in this 1919 or 2019, 2020. What about 3 years from now? What do you think we need to be thinking about, or looking towards, or looking forward to, or need to navigate potentially in 2022?
I actually think that there are going to be a lot more companies at this conference that never were at this conference before, that never thought about coming to this conference, because we've opened up the aperture around data, and we have opened the door to a lot of companies who are going to see amazing opportunities in the space. Right? This is what % of GDP is healthcare now? Like 19, 20?
Yeah.
Okay. It was 16 when I was in public health school in 1993.
Right.
So,
I know.
So it's moving up, obviously, and that's going to, again, we're already seeing large companies like Amazon and others who were not in the healthcare space previously starting to fly in very deeply. But I think there's going to be a whole host of companies are going to think about the solutions that they've provided in other industries and say, you know what? The data is flowing better. We actually have some opportunities here to bring some of what we did to transform another industry into healthcare to make it better. So I think there will be, this exhibit floor will start to look increasingly like the Consumer Electronics Show, right?
In Vegas, the CES show.
It edges closer and closer there every year, and maybe right in time for us to have HIMSS back in Vegas.
Exactly.
Which now that I live on the West Coast, I'm ready for.
Oh, you left DC?
Yeah, I live in Silicon Valley. I followed the company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. But it makes getting to Orlando a little more challenging.
It does. I actually lived in Palo Alto, 836 Forest Avenue, 2 streets off of University.
I know exactly where Forest is.
Yeah.
I had a work assignment in Palo Alto in 1997. I was at 555 Forest Avenue. We were practically neighbors.
1997? I was there in 1998, 99.
Yeah, I was gone by then. That's so funny.
Gracious,
I could have left a breadcrumb trail for you.
Hilarious. That's awesome. I didn't realize you moved to the West Coast. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes,
How long have you been with Ciitizen then?
We have been a company since November, incorporated in September 2017, but we had our first day November 6th, 2017, and I was there. I had moved just like 2 days before that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Deven McGraw, thank you very much for joining us today.
Justin, thank you for the invite. Thank you so much.
We'll do it again. Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to have you back on my radio show later on in the year to get an update on what you guys are doing.
I'd love to do it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome back, and thank you very much. I have one final guest here at HIMSS19, Lygeia Ricciardi from Chief Transformation Officer from Carium. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Justin.
This is your first time on the show. I'm very excited to have you. And since I don't know Carium very well, I would love you to spend a minute or 90 seconds or so. We just did a great countdown here, so now we're really versed on seconds. But 90 seconds or so on what Carium is and what you guys do.
It's a software company that builds a patient engagement platform. So we partner with existing health systems, community-based organizations, and others to provide an online experience or an app-based experience that guides patients through their health and wellness journey. So that's like prompts, like don't forget to follow through on that appointment with the specialist, but it's also kind of nudges and encouragement about getting more exercise or eating better, that kind of thing.
What type of innovations are you deploying in that platform? Are you using like voice? Are you using other types of what type of technology, texts, or what are you using for?
So I think a lot of these things we may expand into. We're under a year old. We were actually started last April, but we are up and running with the Petaluma Health Center and with other folks too, whom I can't yet announce. But right now, part of what we're doing that's really innovative is that we are using behavior change science to understand kind of what's motivating people and to tailor how we motivate them based on things that we know about them. So that's one thing that we're doing. And we're really trying to understand and get to know the person, not just like what's your health history, but things like how are you feeling today? How are you feeling yesterday? Is there a trend? You know, what's important to you? Those kinds of questions. The idea being that, you know, technology, part of what's really cool is that technology can really bring us personalization at scale.
Very true. And you have deep consumerism roots. So give me 30 seconds from your ONC post and what you did there, because you did great work.
Sure. Thank you. So I went to ONC in the midst of implementation of the HITECH Act, and I was 2011 actually.
Okay,
I was already super passionate about empowering consumers and patients, and I went there with that in mind. And I would say it was it was something that the agency had thought of, but while I was there, I really worked hard to expand it and to collaborate with partners both within ONC and a lot in the outside community too, to say this consumer thing, this isn't just like a small add-on. This is a really, really major part of how we're going to transform healthcare. Was
Farzad the coordinator then, or who was the coordinator then?
I actually was there with 3 different coordinators, Blumenthal briefly, and Farzad during the whole of his tenure as national coordinator, although he was part of the
and then
team
Jacob,
that hired me. Jacob as well, and Karen DeSalvo. So actually I got 4.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's right. Very cool. And then also, did I see you outside? Do you have a cape on? Are you wearing a cape? Because Rasu was here earlier.
I may have a cape.
I think you have a cape on. You're the communicator?
That's supposed to be off the record, but
I love
yes.
it.
I actually wanted to be the consumerista because I used to kind of be called that.
Yeah, exactly.
But that didn't exactly hit it's like we had to have a certain form of word. So they decided on communicator, which works okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I communicate a lot about consumer stuff. And it's all good, though.
Yeah, now I like consumerista. That's fantastic. Okay, so now let's talk into some of the thought leader stuff. What healthcare and health IT trends are you seeing or are you navigating out in the industry? Let me touch on a little bit.
Having come from ONC, I am pretty excited about the announcement yesterday by ONC and CMS.
Elise was here earlier.
Yeah, so you've already heard about it somewhat, but just for those who perhaps weren't listening, this is kind of furthering the idea of how dare them.
No.
This is furthering the idea of patient access to data, and in this case, using APIs to do it. That's really exciting, not only because it just generally makes it easier, but also because it enables a whole ecosystem of apps and tools, like the company I work at now, to be built around consumers.
Half my guests today are in that boat. They love APIs and the push here.
Well, this whole idea that nothing's going to change, big picture in healthcare, unless we have real sort of cross collaboration among different silos and different industries. And I love that we're increasingly seeing the healthcare industry work with tech and consumer-oriented tech, whether that's, startups or big established companies.
Yep. Nope, that's fantastic. My first guest or my second guest was the niche. So you can't get away. We started the show right off with APIs and we geeked out right on the.
Oh, I bet you did.
From get go. So perfect. I love it though. What are 2 or 3 best practices that you can share with my guests around how to navigate these trends or get more involved in them?
So I will say this: if you think about one trend as further engaging consumers, which this rule or proposed set of rules is supporting, you have to really think about what's going to motivate your consumer or your customer. I think too often in healthcare we think about healing the patient and what we think in a kind of paternalistic way often is best for them.
Yep.
But we have to kind of literally ask people, why are you motivated? So if the issue is, hey, I need you to get in shape and lose 10 pounds, maybe you're motivated because you want to go back to your high school reunion or you want to play with your grandkids or whatever it is. And if you sort of start with the motivation and then some of the specific goals, that's one best practice.
Excellent.
Really think of your consumer first.
Yep.
I would say another one is to recognize that so much of health and wellness is influenced by not just what happens in the healthcare system, but all the things that happen outside. So not just, increasingly people are talking about social determinants of health, socioeconomic factors that impact people's lives. That matters. Genomics matter. It's all these things. Actual healthcare impacts only about 10% of your overall picture of well-being. So think beyond, what happens in the office, in the clinic. Think about people's kind of lifescape as they go about their days and bring healthcare to them.
Nope, that's fantastic. Thinking about, because we talk about a lot of here and now at HIMSS. But thinking about 3 years from now, in 2022, what should we keep our eye on to have to navigate them or to be able to, successfully navigate to thrive?
So, a lot of people are talking about artificial intelligence now. That's something we can't sort of escape.
94% of my guests today have talked about AI.
So we don't even need to go back to that then.
Well, but in a really positive way. People initially they're snickering, not on air, but just in the last, it's a hype, it's hype. No, it's actually not hype. It's actually being involved in care strategies, care planning now. Doctors want to be trained on it. So it's
part of what's going on is that we have this immense proliferation of data. And if you look at consumers' lives, as I was saying, and you try and sort of piece together the whole picture of what influences someone's health, a lot of that is things that are beyond the traditional health system, other kinds of data, like what I ate for lunch and all these, my moods, whom I spoke to, all kinds of other details. And people can be overwhelmed by data. AI is one thing that can help you navigate, whether you're in the provider position or the patient perspective, make sense of that. What are the trends that matter? What are the things that we can pull out of that we really need to watch? So I think we need AI in order to kind of navigate the masses of data that we now have access to.
Agree completely.
But it's also important to not sort of just kind of say AI will fix everything.
Right. Yes.
I mean, what is
solve
AI?
healthcare.
That still depends on a lot of rules and algorithms that are ultimately written by people. We have to figure out what matters, and we have to figure out how to do it in ways that are relatively unbiased as well, which is a challenge. So there's a lot that we're learning, I think, as an industry to figure out how to make AI more actually intelligent.
That's very good. And then also, I think the other side of AI is artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence. I think it's when you get in with the doctors and care providers, they still are going to be the domain expert, but we can use it. They can augment what we do and so forth.
Can I just say, speaking about augmentation?
Yes.
So augmented reality is another thing that I think is going to be really interesting and coming down the pike in just a few years.
Yes.
I mean, already, if you've ever played Pokemon Go or used a Snapchat filter, augmented reality is happening.
I have not done either of those, though.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, you're almost off, right?
Yes.
I'll show you. It's going to be fun.
Cool.
But, so let's incorporate those things for healthcare.
Yep.
So as you're grocery shopping, why not say have sort of an overlay of you could mix up these Brussels sprouts with that olive oil and that garlic, and you could put together a whatever, as an example.
Yeah, that's great.
So you could do all kinds of things.
I'm a big foodie, so I love that example.
All right, awesome.
Yes. Perfect.
Well, apparently we both have had Italian grandmothers, so that makes sense.
Yes, and she did teach me how to cook too. No, I agree completely. Actually, last year, in this exact panel, actually not this exact panel, but a panel that we had in the radio show, talked about augmented reality, and they gave several examples that are being done today around doing, they don't usually do cadavers anymore. They actually do a lot of their surgeries through augmented reality and virtual reality.
Yes.
And so,
Another thing, I don't know if people talked about this, but venipuncture. So have you seen these things? It's like this scanner you can put over someone's arm, and you can sort of see in an augmented way where someone's blood vessels are and where all the veins are, and therefore your stick rate of success is significantly higher.
Yeah. Nope, I love it, and I agree with you.
It's pretty cool.
It is. So, in closing, what do you hope to achieve over the next couple of days here? You're going to communicate a lot. with people.
Yep.
But what are you looking to achieve, or what are you looking forward to in the next couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking forward to and what I'm hoping to achieve actually is, I've made this switch from working in policy. I spent a number of years consulting in my own private practice. Now I'm working with a tech company, and I'm really interested in partnerships and unconventional partnerships. I think it's very interesting that we've got, Uber and Lyft here talking about working with healthcare, stuff like that. Yeah. So people from sort of non-traditional combinations coming together. I'm interested in exploring some of those with my company, and also learning about
Grand Slam place for that.
I know it's a good place for that, but also sort of seeing what other kinds of creative partnerships are percolating, because I think, obviously not even the biggest, like there was the Apple Aetna merger announced just recently last week. And not even the biggest, tech company can go at something alone anymore. Right. Certainly in healthcare, we've all got a partner. Yep. So that's where it gets interesting.
Well, I'm going to give Lyft another plug. I actually had an unfortunate incident with Uber on Monday morning where they canceled my trip to the airport. And we Evelyn and Jamie brought up Lyft and the Lyft, actually Allscripts Lyft partnership. And just I want to give Lyft another, and also they've helped sponsor HIMSS, so we'll give Lyft another plug.
That is pretty cool.
Because they're thinking innovatively and how to partner. But I think Uber will as well. I mean, actually, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I was in Arizona for actually a college football game. And one of the drivers, our Uber driver, I always ask people questions when I travel and I get learn with the community.
You learn a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I always talk to them. And I said, so how long have you been driving? He's like, well, I've only been driving for Uber for a couple of months, but I work for a hospital. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? Oh, I make 10 times what I make. Or no, 20 times. I make 20 times the amount of working for the hospital than I do Uber. I'm like, why? Oh, because the exact same trip costs 20 times more working for a hospital.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm like, that's what's wrong with healthcare.
Well, so, that like a Uber's ride in an ambulance costs what? 2,000 times as much or something like that. Yeah,
well, it's like, it's more than, it's like $100 a mile, or I think it's like $100 or $500 a mile, something ridiculous like that. No, it's $100 a mile, I think it is, to ride an ambulance. But they're just driving a car,
So maybe one day we'll get crowd shares, anyone can be an ambulance for a few hours.
Well, I think what it is I understand the complexity of the ambulance, but I don't he gets paid.
You're right.
20 times to be in the same Toyota Corolla to drive someone to a hospital, then drive someone in Uber.
Is that because
it's a healthcare? Healthcare just we're an open book. We're an open checkbook. We all pay. This is ridiculous. And we start cutting that stuff out, and that's when I knew Uber's going to disrupt that model. Because even if they charge double, it's still less than 20 times. Is what the other companies are charging. These are private organizations that hire drivers at 20x what Uber is charging.
Presumably, though, maybe that person who's driving for healthcare had to go through some extra background checks or. I don't know, drive carefully or don't. I don't know. One does hope, but yes. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyhow, Lygeia, true pleasure to have you on air today. I'm glad you could join the show, and I'd love to have you back. As you build your company, let me know. I'd love to have you on air. I love what you guys are doing. So
excellent. Thank you, Justin.
You got it. Thank you. Awesome.
And for everyone listening, thank you for joining us today. And please tune in weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag ThisJustIn so you can respond to your comments from the show. In addition, all my content's always posted on my website at justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a terrific week.